Caleb with DSLR Video Shooter, and today we're talking about some budget RGB. Clearly, here in 2018, RGB is blowing up on the consumer end as well as here in the video industry. At NAB 2018, I saw RGB lights everywhere, and there's definitely some cool uses for them. The problem is they're stupid expensive to do right. So I wanted to see what's available out there that we could use that's affordable, and I came across this. This is a $15 to $20 RGB light, and what's crazy is I bought 4 of them for $60 on Amazon. Now there's definitely some catches with this, but if you're looking for what you kind of see behind me, just some basic RGB functionality for maybe YouTube videos, these are incredible. So what are they? Well, they're actually DJ lights, and they're really simple. This particular one does need to be powered off of the wall, so let's get that out of the way right out of the gate. But it's really simple to control. You plug it in, give it power. On the back, there are a bunch of little switches, which are kind of awkward. You know, a video light's going to give you dials and all this nice information. For around 10 to 20 bucks, you're stuck with these dip switches. Different combinations will give you different colors, brightnesses, strobing. There's even a mode in here, which I believe is stock, where it'll like hear beats of music and flash lights to that music. So really simple stuff here. But there's what's called DMX inputs and outputs on the back. This means you could use a cheap controller to control all of your lights, and we'll look at all of that here in a second. But in the box, you're going to find the light itself. You'll also get a little yoke like you see right here. And what's cool with this is you can either screw it to the ceiling like I've done behind me for the 3 lights that are currently lighting the background. Or you can use what's called a rapid baby adapter, which is getting close to half the cost of this light itself, and that'll allow you to mount it to a typical standard light stand. So here I have the light, it's plugged in, and as you can see, it's changing colors due to my voice. If I tap it here, you'll see it go ahead and continue to change colors. Kind of a weird thing, something we probably wouldn't use for video production. But what you can do is start turning switches off and change colors. So right now, all the switches are turned on. This is how it shows up out of the box. I'm gonna go ahead and start turning off switches, starting with number 1. So now we have a very dim red, and as I turn these off, it'll get brighter and start to mix colors. Now we're into green. Now it's kind of all the colors mixed together. And so you can just experiment with the different switches and find a color that you like this nice teal color. That's one way to control the light. The real power is when you start to use DMX. What this essentially is on the back, you'll see what look like, and they really are the same connectors as XLR. You'll have an input and an output. You can connect what's called a DMX controller to this light and use nice faders instead. I'm gonna grab one that I have here on the floor. It's huge, but it's cheap at around 50 bucks. And there's other options out there that I've used that are a little more portable. So let me set this down real quick. And here's the controller. Super overkill for simple setups like the one I'm using, but it's really affordable, and there's other handheld ones that you can find on Amazon. But we're gonna keep things really simple. You can do a lot with this that I'm not even gonna touch. There's other videos on YouTube. But essentially on the left here, we have a bunch of numbers. These are the fixtures or lights that we have. I have 3, you can see 3 lit up here. You can control them together, or you can control them independently. So right now I have all selected. I can go ahead and make them all full red, full green, full blue, or I can do a mix. So there's kind of a mix of green and blue together using these sliders. So there's lots of videos that can help you set this up. Essentially, you need to have each light have a certain switch set on the back, and I'll show you now how I have my 3 set up. So to get them all connected to this thing and have number 2, number 3, number 4 here on the selector to work. So I can deselect all but the first fixture, and we can make it full red. I can then deselect the first one, select the second light. We'll make that one full green, and for the last one, we'll make that full blue. Looks a little ridiculous, but you get the idea. And then of course I can select all of them at once and control that. Now the way this is going to work is on these sliders here. Number 1 is master brightness. So if I turn them all the way up, number 1 is going to turn them down and dim them. I found if you don't want flickering in your video, turn it all the way up to 100%. From here, we're going to use the next 3 sliders for colors, and that's essentially how I'm dealing with brightness. So if you just want red, use this first slider to set, the level of brightness for red. When it comes to flickering, what I was super surprised is that this actually works without flickering. I was expecting this thing to be unusable for video. And from there you can do really anything. Combinations of colors work pretty well. So there's kind of a mix of blue and red to get kind of a purple color, a little bit of green, a little bit of blue for some turquoise, or of course, just individual colors like a touch of red. A little is going to go a long way here. I did find, depending on the color you use, you'll start to get some saturation distortion. So this should look pretty horrific right now because these LEDs aren't the highest quality. So you won't use these as a key light, obviously, but they will work just fine for backgrounds and things. Some other things to keep in mind is the way that these lights are shooting out colors is different rows of different colors. So if you're mixing colors together, you're not going to have, a solid purple light. You're going to have blue lights and red lights mixed together. So it can get a little funky depending on how you're using the light. I found if you put just a little bit of diffusion in front of the light, that kind of takes all those colors and mixes them together nicely, and you'll get a more even output. But you won't want to use this light super close to like a white wall without that kind of diffusion. And I just usually tape it to the front of the light. It's a metal light, pretty well built, so you could also use magnets. That would work just fine, or Velcro, or whatever, method works best for you. Now, if you're doing kind of a YouTube setup like I am here, or some kind of studio setup, you can actually go crazy with this thing and create little programmed setups. So with one tap of a button, it completely changes to something that you set previously. To connect all these lights together, you can use the proper method, which is buying DMX cables. They're essentially super fancy XLR cables, or you can just use XLR cables, which is what I've done for half of this setup, and it works just fine. So you'll just daisy chain the lights together, set the little dip switches to what I've shown you on screen, and you'll have 3 lights that are connected together. You can then connect even more if you wanted to, or other DJ lights, because this whole DMX system is pretty much universal. You can even use production lights with these lights. So I had a setup where I had a giant key light, and that was programmed in with this entire system so that I could use DMX. A lot of Aperture's lights have DMX built in. So you can get adapters to make it all kind of work. You can even go wireless with this by buying these little wireless dongles that can transmit over long, distances. So it's pretty interesting stuff. Not for everybody, but if you're looking for a really, really cheap RGB setup, these lights will work great. And if this thing turns you off, the whole big board here, you can still use those dip switches on the back. Different combinations, you can learn them pretty quickly, or even write them onto the light with a marker. And then just have a little pop of color that you can hit a wall with, hit kind of the background or a product or something like that. So that's really going to wrap this one up. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll try to, in the description below, put more information about setting the lights up, because I know when I first got them, it was kind of daunting with all those switches, not knowing what did what, and the manual isn't really that fantastic. You can also find these lights in the description, as well as a link to this and other controllers. Let me know what you guys thought. Otherwise, you can watch fresh videos here at DSLR Video Shooter every single Tuesday. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.